shocking bit of news ever reported. The lovely bromance that we were all enjoying between President Donald Trump and Elon Musk appears to be over. I mean, they're breaking up, but you never know. You know, breakups they could end up with them making up. Apparently, they're gonna talk, or they were talking this morning. But yeah, yesterday it all happened in spectacular fashion, as these people do things. If you listen, I sent Jonathan yesterday a video from MSNBC. I've been watching a lot of this unfold on MSNBC. I always say we watch it so you don't have to. In the case of MSNBC, as opposed to like the BBC and the Guardian, I think it's good to follow what they're doing. You really don't have to watch MSNBC. It's so unimpressive, even when they're kind of enjoying the implosion of this relationship. Uh, but yeah, the MSNBC said, "Oh, it's a battle of egos," and of course, that is not a use of the word ego that students of objectivism would accept. But the way it is used, yeah, you see that it's none of it is about substance, and while people who hate Trump and or Musk will enjoy everything about this, I also see the terrifying aspect of one of them being the leader of the, let's still call it, free world, and the other being the richest man in the world, and somebody who has, since we have a mixed economy, has some influence, and his business could be influenced by whatever Trump does next. So yeah, welcome to the Daily Objective. I'm Razi Ginzberg. We're going to get into some of the details of this and see what exactly it means, what we can expect. Hopefully, it's not going to affect the rest of us too much. I'm joined by Jonathan Hoenig. Jonathan, this is supposedly, according to Trump, this is about ending subsidies for electric vehicles, which of course is something we would support here, and is a big part of why Tesla is the success that it is.
Well, I have to say, Razi, I've never seen such a spat. I mean, I've never seen this between two of the world's most rich and most powerful men. The whole thing got me thinking a bit about what Ayn Rand talked about in terms of economic power versus political power. Donald Trump has political power now. He has the power of the gun. Elon Musk has economic power. He's a wealthy man through his investments and his innovations, etc. I mean, both of these guys are used to having things their way. But I have to say, I am so-called Team Elon here in that he correctly identified that this so-called big, beautiful bill increased government spending. And Elon Musk, seemingly from his tweets and his postings, has been pretty steadfast about the correlation between government spending and inflation. I believe he's posted Milton Friedman, etc. So he didn't just get in line and kiss Trump's keister like so many others have, and that set off this kind of war of worlds, war of tweets more than anything else. And just I've never seen anything like it. And in fact, yesterday Tesla stock was down 14%. It was I believe its worst day ever, losing Elon Musk upwards of $100 billion himself.
Yeah, on MSNBC they mentioned that only 14 people in history have actually like had $100 billion, and Elon loses it in a day, which is a testament to his success, and also to some extent to the problem of a mixed economy. Bonnie says, getting error message for super chat. Yeah, it's starting. I think this is the effect of the spat. But you mentioned Jonathan, the Trump has the power of the gun. Trump was using the power of the gun even when he didn't have it. I mean, even as a businessman, he would try to get government to screw over anybody who was in his way, including trying to use eminent domain, against people, I believe, in Atlantic City. So, yeah, it's not new to Trump, but the thing is, Trump, one of Trump's biggest allies, who he also broke up and made up with, Steve Bannon, actually said yesterday that what Trump should do is seize SpaceX. Seize
Right.
SpaceX. This
And deport Elon. And deport Elon Musk, I believe, as well.
Yeah, yeah, and
I mean, Razi, what frustrates me more than anything is neither of these guys, Elon Musk or Donald Trump, which are presented to the general public as, exemplifying American capitalism, to me, they're so uncouth. They're so ugly. I mean, I deal with high net worth people all day long. None of them are as kind of rude and as just ugly as both of these men are. The spat seemed to start because Trump accused Elon of having Trump derangement syndrome, because we've never heard that one before, or TDS. But then Elon turned around and all of a sudden was like, "Oh, Trump is in the Epstein files. Why do you think you haven't seen them?" So it just kind of quickly, degenerates into this ugliness that I hate is associated with business people. Think of any of the objectivist business people, from John Allison, maybe one of the senior gentlemen from BB&T Bake, to Blake Scholl. I mean, did any of them act like this? Or any of them as kind of petty and ugly and base and kind of emotionalistic as Trump or Musk? So I just hate the fact that they're associated so closely with successful business people, because so often they act like children, and it really it doesn't kind of reflect well on what we want, I believe, business people to be.
Yeah, and the high net worth individuals that you deal with all day long are welcome to support this cause as well. Let them know, and if they don't like what they're seeing with Elon and Trump, because look, these are two so unprincipled people, and you see this, that they're not principled in the sense of, they think government's role should be limited to certain things, and so whatever the spat is, it looks very much like Elon was not happy with the uh, redistribution of wealth that Trump is doing, because it wasn't not enough of other people's money was going into Elon's business. Again, the richest man alive, who has built I don't know how many multi-billion dollar businesses, still insist on government intervening, and government does intervene. That's what they do under Biden, under Trump, under all of the above options. And yeah, it's a question. And again, this is another moment to remind people Donald Trump is a lifelong Democrat who became a Republican when he saw that it's easier to get elected as a Republican. Surrounded himself with lifelong Democrats, people who believe in government control of the economy, in maybe with a slightly different focus than some of the left. But yeah, this is not a pro freedom. This is not a pro freedom movement, the MAGA movement, and yeah, we
Well,
see it in this
I,
spat as well, and we might see more of it.
I mean, Elon is a fascinating character, and I mean, I've said it before. It's like he can get a rocket ship to go up into space, come right back down to where it landed, and I go to Walmart or I go to Sam's Club, and I walk back out to the parking lot, and I don't remember where I parked my car. I mean, this man really is some amazing ability, and it's changed the world, and we celebrate him from that. I mean, he's certainly not perfect, but I do think that he seemed to have an earnest interest in reducing government spending, in shrinking the size and scope of government. Now, the way, in my opinion, he went about it with Doge was completely haphazard, devoid of principle, which is why it ultimately worked. But as I said, I respect the fact that he didn't just get in line and support what he knew to be a big spending initiative. The Republicans, Dr. Brooke always talked about the Republicans are a great opposition party. They're great at keeping the Democrats from being big spenders, but when they get into power, they become the big spenders. So, look, I respect anyone, including Elon in this case, who's willing to not just, gloss over reality, not evade reality, but say this elephant has no clothes and call a spade a spade. This so-called big beautiful bill is a big spending bill. It adds to the debt. It adds to the deficit. It grows the size of government. So for Elon to kind of speak out on that, I respect that, and I think others should as well.
I've never driven a Tesla, because when I rent a car and they say, "Do you want an electric vehicle?" It's mostly that I don't want to try to figure out how to charge them. But whenever I'm in a Tesla, whenever I get an Uber or a Lyft and it's a Tesla, you see that it's an amazing car. And Jonathan, you leave Walmart and you don't remember where the car parked. If Tesla doesn't already do it, it'll either come pick you up or remind you where it is. And why does it need government subsidies? So that is such a I know many in our audience have not read Atlas Shrugged, but when you do think of
Well,
Elon Musk when you read
well,
about Dr. Robert Stadler and
okay, all right, but in Musk's defense, at least in this situation, I didn't hear him or see him or remember him advocating for additional subsidies. And I think Rand wrote that essay that is on the question of scholarships. Where I'm crudely summarizing, and I really respect that everyone should read it him or herself. But basically, the idea was you take Social Security because you paid into it, you were forced to pay into it, but you don't advocate for the expansion of the welfare state. You don't advocate for more subsidies, for more. So, Elon, I think, could have been easily pressuring the president into including, explicit benefits for his companies into the budget, into these bills, and maybe he was. The whole thing, Razi, is so surreal. It was 2 weeks ago that Trump and Elon Musk were on the White House lawn with a brand new Tesla, and Elon and giving it to Trump, or Trump bought it, and it's like 2 weeks later, and that's what I'm saying. It's like, where have the statesmen gone? Where have the actual leaders gone? Where have the people who think in principle, who aren't emotionalistic, who don't want to one up the next on Twitter? It's like, where have these people gone from government? They don't exist anymore. And ultimately, that's what's so frightening, is there's no principle driving any of these players. It's whim, emotion, and that is scary as hell.
Yeah, James Valiant in the chat says long gone. Yeah, look, if somebody gives you a Tesla, that's an amazing gift, but not if somebody just gave you a, 747. The Tesla kind of maybe pales in comparison, although it is safer. People stop. The 747 is old and not good anymore. There's better, safer planes. Um, yeah, somebody said, can imagine Elon go to Europe or something before prison. The fact that we're even talking about the possibility of prison, deportation, expropriation, and again, this is not none of it is coming so far from the Trump administration. It's coming from Trump administration adjacent people like Steve Bannon, he's always been a full-on fascist. There's no pretense with Steve Bannon that he's not actually, he doesn't despise America. By the way, yesterday on the reality show we had Adam Ossoff, and he said we were talking about the pro-Hamas protesters in America, and he said, look, these are all also anti-American protesters, and of course they state fully and clearly that they hate America. Steve Bannon is just as anti-American as your run-of-the-mill Hamas protester, except he might actually get and gets his stuff through. And yeah, nobody is more anti everything about America. The idea of a government that is limited is completely against everything Steve Bannon wants to do.
And there's a cult of personality around, Trump. Whereas if you disagree with him, you are exorcised, you are kicked out, you are shunned, from that point on. And oftentimes, basically based on whim. So much, I believe, of what the MAGA movement is devoid of principles. It's why you can be pro tariffs and anti tariffs and pro tariffs and anti tariffs over and over again. And it's this, I think, on some levels, par for the course. So much of what Miss Rand talked about is this idea of thinking in principles and looking at life not based on how you feel about it with your heart or your emotions, but based on what you understand is to be man's nature and the physical principles of the world. And that just seems absent from so much of today's politics. They don't deal in principles. They deal in, I guess, deals. And one of those deals is that you don't cross the master and you go along to get along. So, as I said, I mean, anyone who speaks up against government spending, I think, at least in America now, I really applaud. We have, and Don Watkins, a scholar, an objective scholar, wrote about this 5 or 6 years ago, the debt dilemma, the debt bomb that was ticking. And it really is. The level of government spending now, currently under President Trump, is bigger than it was at the same time than under the previous president or the president before them, Biden, or the previous president, Trump's first term. So spending continues to grow. So if the fact that Elon is willing to speak out against that, I would applaud that, and I think others should as well.
Yeah, by the way, when Trump posted on Truth Social about dropping the EV subsidies. He, of course, said, "I don't know why Biden didn't do it." I mean, I don't know that that's in Trump's favor, that statement. I mean, of course, that should have been dropped, but uh, yeah, maybe Biden doesn't do kind of revenge politics as much as Trump does. Thank you, Bonnie, for the super chat. Daniel, do you want to play us that clip? I think it comes better from the horse's mouth, ass's mouth, whatever you want to call this piece of shit. Well, this is the Bannon clip, right? Yeah.
Know anything. He's a know-it-all. He knows some engineering. Don't get me wrong. I give a hat tip for that, but he doesn't know anything about the real world. Doge was, and for any fanboys that still exist, while you're wrapping up in your cape tonight, understand on Doge he didn't find any fraud. There's plenty of fraud out there. He didn't fraud. This is President Trump's first complaint. Was this all BS? Right with the with the Doge. The act that President Trump should be taking immediately, I think, when he threatens to take one of the big programs out of SpaceX, President Trump tonight should sign an executive order calling for the Defense Production Act to be called in SpaceX and seize SpaceX tonight before midnight.
Seize SpaceX again. I brought this up recently, but it reminds me of this.
I mean, that's Hugo Chavez
Yeah,
come to America.
exactly. Walking. That was Hugo. That's a Hugo Chavez clip, right? Not a Maduro clip. Walking down the street, asking, "What is this?" And somebody says it's a private business, and he says, "Expropriate it." That's the America that Steve Bannon wants. Steve Bannon wants, you know, America to become the worst of South America.
Yeah, I mean, look, when President Trump first ran, when people said, "Wouldn't it be great to have a successful businessman in the Oval Office?" My response was, "I'd rather have a successful businessman in business because the role of government is not creating wealth. The role of government is very much different. Part of it is being a statesman, of which I think Trump fails miserably. But Steve Bannon's view of the world is not that of rugged individualism. It's not that of capitalism. It's not that of Americanism. It's very much of in my opinion, a European fascist state in which, as you said, it's up to Trump's whim who stays, who goes, what companies are kept so-called private, what companies are made part of government. And we've already seen these war powers or emergency powers enacted for all these tariffs on deportations in America. And it's like, if you declared an emergency, you could do whatever you want. I don't really think that's what the founding fathers had in mind, when they created this great country. So, Bannon's response is so ugly, but so telling that that's his understanding of how to deal with political disagreements. Don't hash it out in Congress. Don't debate it. Don't debate the issues. Just take it. Just use force and take it.
Yeah, and by the way, government should, in an ideal system, you would have emergency situations that require certain measures. But for Trump, the emergency is we're getting all this great stuff from other countries, and we're paying for it. So there's an imbalance that we need to fix. That's the emergency in Trump's case.
Can I say one thing? I actually think there's a huge opportunity with Elon Musk here now. I was part of the so-called early Tea Party movement, however many decades ago, when Rick Santelli from CNBC, famously said people didn't want to pay for others more. I think there's actually an opportunity here to get Elon, some objectivist material, get him on board with the idea of the virtue of selfishness, of individualism, and
I think that's Elon texting you right now. He might be
yeah,
watching.
I wish because I think like so many others are hungry for a philosophy, and they're not finding it in the radical left or the radical right. Certainly not in Steve Bannon, the fascist right. So I think there's a real opportunity here, and Elon would be an incredible spokesman for objectivism. We could just get him on board.
Yeah, and when Elon went on his Twitter rant with 42 posts yesterday, one of them was to Congress to tell them, Trump is only going to be around for 3 years, but I'm going to be around for 40 years, kind of saying, I can spend my money on getting you out of office and so on. Again, I don't like what that insinuates, but yes, of course, there's an opportunity to remember Elon was full on leftist a few years ago, and he blames, as do many, the left for leaving him. But yeah, he is one of those Trump Democrats. Thank you, Bronx Guy Gun Hill Road, for the super chat. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I was just going to say, it's Dr. Brooke, I believe, has talked about the need for a separation of the economy and the state, just the same as in America, we understand there to be a separation of church and state. And that's not true with today's average Republican. Today's Republican, certainly President Trump, believe that there's a direct correlation between or not correlation, but a real interface between the government and the private sector. They're investing together, they're building together, government's making investment, government making deals. So, President Trump's, I believe, understanding of the U.S. government is much more of what Ms. Rand defined as fascism, which is a system which is private in name only. It's a private market, but government is really behind the scenes controlling all the strings. Certainly, we've seen that with tariffs, and we're seeing it in other areas of the economy as well.
Thank you, Ginger, for the super chat. Ginger says, send the books to Elon, Jonathan. Yeah, absolutely, if you have his address. And we can also invite him to watch this show and the show that follows it live on stage July 1st in Boston. The Daily Objective, the reality show with Jonathan Hoenig, with Jim Brown, with Michael Kaufman, with myself, perhaps more people.
Cavalcade of Stars is what you're saying?
What?
A cavalcade of stars is what you're saying.
Oh yeah, exactly. And Elon, if you join, you don't just have to sit in the audience. We can invite you up on stage, and yeah, it's time to come over from the dark side.
I mean, look, I remember talking with Ken Moelis, and some of our audience might not know his name, but Ken Moelis is one of the biggest successful investment bankers of the recent decades. Majorly successfully as a whole company, Moelis and Company on the New York Stock Exchange. I went and saw him talk about how Ayn Rand had influenced his growth and his understanding of business and his success. So, they're out there. So many successful CEOs out there have been influenced by Ayn Rand. And I think Elon could be, if he just really understood it to be what it is. He does, to me, does not seem like an altruist. You don't see a lot of, as I understand it, Elon Musk sponsored programs here and there in terms of, just giving money away. So I think there's opportunity there. If not even Elon's followers, to introduce them to radical individualism, radical selfishness, objectivism, the only philosophy for happiness on earth.
Yeah, and look, if you want to sponsor this show, Elon, you're welcome. Probably with SpaceX more than Tesla, but we can talk. Ginger asks, when is this, Razi? That is July 1st in Boston. There is a link. There's a link now in the chat. You can go sign up now. It is free. Make sure you join us, and we will tell you more about our October event, which is not free, later on. Oh, yeah. Somebody earlier in the chat said, I think in the context of the subsidies, why does Israel need charity from the US? I don't think Israel should take charity from the US. Ideally, Israel would fight a war very differently, would win it, and America should sell them weapons. Now, in the case of Iran, I do think it's an American interest to get rid of that regime. It's not charity if the US takes out the Iranian regime. But yeah, look, for Israeli soldiers were killed today because they went into a building that was booby-trapped. Why are they going into buildings? They're going into buildings because maybe there are so-called innocent civilians there, which of course there are not. There are terrorists or booby traps or bombs. Yeah, absolutely terrible, and that is how Israel is fighting. And within the world as it currently is, and how countries choose, the better countries choose to fight wars. Unfortunately, yeah, that is also part of it. Israel gets charity, and with the charity come restrictions, and with the restrictions comes a policy that Israel anyway seems to be happy to do, which is sacrificing its own soldiers for the enemy's sake. Thank you, Gail, for the super chat. Jonathan, parting thoughts?
Just to thank all of our super chatters. We are the history's largest network of information based and influenced by Ayn Rand's objectivism. And we can only do it because of people like Gail and people like Ginger, those 2 and 4 and 5 and 20 and 50 and 500 pounds at a time. So thank you for keeping us on the air. We've got another show, great show coming up. There's a book that was recently put out, I was a part of, called Can You Really Love a Dog? Nothing to do with Israel, nothing to do with Trump, nothing to do with the war, only to do with the philosophical understanding of our relationship with our pets. And so much of it was written by Dr. Leonard Peikoff, who was Ayn Rand's intellectual heir. So if you want a really wonderful treat, and are a dog lover or a cat lover such as I am, check out Can You Really Love a Dog at Amazon. It's a great gift for anyone who's a pet lover, as Miss Rand and Dr. Peikoff both were and are.
Somebody in the chat says, Razi, your yodeling in Yiddish is very attractive from a heterosexual point of view. I don't know if that's a backhanded compliment or a troll comment, but it was funny enough for me to read. And Stedman says, ARCUK deserves a much bigger audience. Absolutely. And you can help us get that much bigger audience by liking, sharing, commenting. These comments help. Don't spam, please, but absolutely comment. And of course, sharing. If you're sharing, share on Elon Musk's platform. I've heard that a bunch of people have gone back to X now that Elon and Trump are broken up. So go on X, retweet it, repost it. Like I say, the potential for user-driven virality exists on X and not on YouTube. Yeah, here it is, just telling the algorithm that you're interested in this. There, you can actually get it to an audience immediately. The United Nations wants to protect all of us from fake news, and we are going to thank them on today's episode of The Reality Show. Thanks, Jonathan. Thanks, everybody, for watching. We'll see you on The Reality Show in a couple of minutes.